What we see is that up and down the income spectrum, families struggle with how to address getting to their job on time, doing their job, and all the things that come with being a good worker bee, and actually caring for their families. And inequality plays a really important role in that because it looks different based on where you sit across the income spectrum. So for families at the bottom, who today more often than not are families that have just one wage earner because there's one parent, typically the mom, but sometimes a single dad. For those families, they're struggling in a world where they don't have the kinds of supports they need to afford decent childcare perhaps. They may have unpredictable schedules, and they're doing all of this on one salary and trying to adjudicate day in and day out all these conflicts between jobs that are inflexible and often unpredictable and perhaps childcare that is the same way, and trying to also be good parents. Then when you sort of move up to the top of the income spectrum, you find that at least in families with children, more likely than not, the parents are married, but both mom and dad are in the labor market, and both of them have jobs that require really long hours and that are also really inflexible and are also in many ways sometimes have unpredictable hours. You have to stay late, or you have to travel unexpectedly, or you have to be on your BlackBerry all weekend or iPhone. So you see somewhat similar things going on, but of course with very different access to the different kinds of resources. So families at the top, of course, can afford the best kinds of care, but they're still struggling with adjudicating that day in and day out balance. And of course, the rest of us, the families in the middle, which in my analysis are about half of all families with kids, they're a little bit of both. More often than not, they still are that married couple, and more often than not, they've got both parents in the labor market. And of course, they're struggling with many of the same kinds of things that families at the top do, having both people working, but they don't have access to the same kinds of resources and are looking at very limited options sometimes for childcare, after school care. So the lack of policies around care, around paid time off, around scheduling practices affects families in all three places. It affects them differently, but in many ways it exacerbates that pull across families.